Well, welcome to the Good Life meditation for the 22nd day of December 2021. I'm Kurt. This is my daily remembrance of objectives and principles. Let's begin with a reflection on yesterday, last night. Then we'll do the Good Life, and then we'll think about today. Let me start right off by showing you how my current state, this is how it is right now. I'm standing square upon the Anchorhold. Nice, good footing, dry land. The sea is well receded, low horizon, nice sun in the sky. Turned towards us and facing the day. That's how I feel this morning, and I know exactly why I feel that way. It's because I got a full 8 hours of sleep. I feel kind of like a fool. You know, one of my principles, the principles of maturity, suggests that we should learn from our experience and not repeat mistakes. I know from almost 58 years of experience that I need a full night's sleep to do well, to be in good shape. And why have I been not allowing myself that since moving to Menifee and starting my new life? I've been getting by on 7 hours of sleep, and feeling off all day. So last night, I really felt like crap last night. And after dinner, I just went straight to bed at 7:30, I think it was. Yeah, and I was asleep by 8. I had a little bit of an interruption when my daughter came home from Mammoth, and the dogs kind of went nuts, but that's to be expected. But otherwise, other than that, I was dead asleep the whole time, and I feel so good this morning. So I'm going to adjust my schedule a little bit. I'm going to start my work day at 7:30 a.m. rather than 7 a.m. Well, first of all, I'm going to switch the alarm. The alarm's going to go off. Instead of getting up at 4 a.m., I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. And now looking back, this has happened so many times. I really cherish the early morning hours and the coveted hour of 4 to 5 a.m. as a time for myself to do my best work, writing or reading, or even just doing something like this. It's something I've tried many, many times. It's like climbing Mount Everest, it's like trying to summit K2. I make the attempt and I fail over and over. I just can't pull off the 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. thing unless I was to go to sleep at, as I said, like at 8 o'clock. I'm going to sleep at 8 a.m. At 8 p.m. is just too soon for a family man. In the summer months, the sun's still out. So I'm going to adjust my schedule to wake up at 5 a.m., be in bed by 9 p.m., start work at 7:30 a.m., and I'm going to cut out the solitude transcription half hour of activity that I've been doing every morning, and instead I'll sleep. That doesn't mean I won't do the solitude transcription work. I'll simply do it piecemeal as I can find time, and I probably won't do it with a lot via a live, although I might be able to pull that off. We'll see. Let's do the Good Life. And I'm switching things up again, adding a new principle and combining two. I'm going to combine the principles of that which must be borne and hand on the tiller into a single principle titled that which must be borne, with the sub-principle of hand on the tiller. And then I'm adding a new principle to the very end, and I'll save that for last. Let's go. The objectives are: 1, to be always in a prepared position to die, so that I can exit. If I do exit suddenly, or even if it's long and drawn out, I will have done so in a readied state, in prepared state. My finances settled, my connections to others, all the I love yous I want to say said, and whatever words I want to leave behind, my books, are done, or at least as tidy as possible. Next is the good and effective use of time. not to fritter my life away, as it's so easy to do when we work to distract ourselves. 3 is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles, which I'm working hard at this week, especially adding a new principle, finding a good way to combine 2 into 1. Next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions. Man, I struggled a little bit last night. I really felt bad. I just haven't got enough sleep. I really felt like crap last night. Yet I managed that well. Sometimes when I'm in the past, 20 years ago, if I had a crappy night like that, everybody around me would have known it. As it was, I can't, hide anything from my wife. She knew I was having a crappy night, but it wasn't because I was telling her. I did a good job. Next is the performance of good actions, doing good things in the pursuit of virtue, which is the improvement of well-being for thinking creatures. Next is the recognition of limits, true limits, and true opportunity. Planning for the day's meetings is along those lines. I do a thing with my meetings and my projects that I don't need to go into the detail, but it's a thing that works, but it's always hard to do. And I'm going to do that today for the first time with the team. It's hard to do, but it works. It's a very good use of time, and it addresses a very real limit. So I guess that's maturity. The last objective is to just do one thing at a time and to do that thing slowly. Man, I feel so much better having had a full night's sleep, full 8 hours. Whew. Next, my objectives, 30 of these. First is the objective of the war. Interesting how I'm going to be bookending my principles with war and then the new one on the end. They're very different. War is to fight against everything that I believe is true. I didn't do such a good job yesterday. I should have spent some more time trying to destroy the pirate ride yesterday. Instead, I was tired. Felt like crap. I guess you need to be well fed and rested if you're going to fight yourself, especially. Reason and the sub-principles, that's the next principle. And the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. That's what I use in the war. 3 is the homunculus. That's that little guy standing on the rock that I showed you the picture of, my consciousness. And he's going to slip off that rock and fall into the sea one day, or the sea will rise and overwhelm him, and that'll be the end of him and me. And then after the homunculus comes the Anchorhold. That's the rock that the homunculus sits, or lies upon, or slips off of. It sits above the sea that rises and falls, and storms and calms. Next is the home of good and evil, the catalog of right and wrong that the homunculus maintains in chalk so that it can be erased. And as a reminder that it's not permanent and it will blow away. It's not graffiti on the universe. It's just a supposition expressed for a moment during the time when we're alive and then lost forever. If there were no human beings, would there be on the universe? Would there be any? Any definition of right or wrong? I don't think so. Maybe unless there's other sentient creatures. Next is purpose, the principle of purpose, and there are 3 sub-principles, 3 purpi, as I like to say. The first is biology, fulfill our biological mandate to make copies of ourselves, have kids, and pass our genes into the next generation. And if we can, foster another generation beyond that with our grandchildren. Virtue, the pursuit of the well-being of thinking creatures, and whatever purpose we choose, and whatever mission we choose to take on in life. Biology, virtue, and mission are my purpose. The atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, and we're going to fall apart when we die. And what we are will be reused elsewhere. But what we are, who we are, will never be again. Next is the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. It's the nature of this little dog under the blanket here to want to be warm and next to me, or next to one of us. It's his nature. After that comes maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we remember our experiences and have the strength to either not repeat our failures or to continue in what works. After that comes the pirate ride, which I got those backwards again. It should have been the other way. Pirate ride, then maturity, I think. Maybe this is right. And then the pirate ride. And then that's the idea that we don't have any free will. That's the one that I'm working on fighting right now. I'm pushing, backing myself into a more neutral position. Maybe I will settle it with that. I'm going to remain neutral on the position of free will with a suspicion that we don't have free will. Next is this is where I have to insert the new one. I have to think just where, a little further. After the pirate ride comes the principle of I did get it wrong. Pirate ride, maturity, maybe look it up. You think I had a good night's sleep? I'd have it all. There it is. The pirate ride goes before the principle of maturity. This is my book, Going Alone. It's all written out in here. Then the social principle. We are social animals. We need each other. Then comes public speaking, to use good words, few words, slow words, and to never gossip. Then comes temperance. That's a really important one for me. The ability to control our consumption of everything, including our consumption of time to pursue what we want to do, which I really want to do that solitude transcription, but I bit off too much. The sub-principles are suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Now is the two new ones, which I'm going to combine into one. Actually, it's three principles, but two of them are going to combine into one. So the next one is the horror show. I still haven't found a good way to communicate this one, but I just want to remember just how horrible the world can be sometimes. It really is just, and not because it's not. I don't have a sadistic desire to, like a voyeuristic desire to observe these things. It puts things into perspective when you remember that there's a continual parade of horror going on, not just for us human beings, for all life. And it's like it's something that has to be apprehended and remembered, so we can leverage ourselves into some sort of a utility, if not to fight it, to to apply some balm and comfort. I'm really struggling to wrap my head around this one. I know what I want to do, and I can't even really put it into words. But that's okay. This takes time. It's taken me years just to get this far with A Good Life. It's an important new principle, the horror show. I'll get there. Immediately following the horror show is the principle of that which must be borne, and its sub-principle of hand on the tiller. That which must be borne, and I can't look at the book because it's not in there. Because I haven't, this is an old copy. I haven't written it in there and I haven't adjusted it. That which must be borne is literally the consequence of the horror show, the things that are of the horror show, and lesser things. We just have to live with them. A man or woman of maturity and responsibility and principles and seeking after objectives, to not be weighed down and to give up, has to bear within them the horror, as Marlon Brando said, and keep her hand on the tiller and steady as she goes. Whew, that took a lot out of me. Jeez Louise. Man, just talking about it, I feel like I've just swum through the sea. After the horror show, and then that which must be borne, comes distraction. No, the Feast of Offal. I've been saying it wrong all along. I think offal is not necessarily the waste of butchery, but the stuff of the insides, the guts, which might be tossed away by some, but some butchers find good use for it. The Feast of Offal is when we can't keep our cool, and we let it out into the world and let everybody else know that we're not keeping our cool, as a way of releasing the steam. Like last night, like I said before, I wasn't feeling good last night. 20 years ago, I would have let my family know. I would have found some pretense to complain and to fuss, to engage in the feast, and I didn't, and I rarely do anymore. I hold it inside and I push on, and that's a consequence of experience. So I try not to do that. That's the principle of the Feast of Offal. Next is distraction. I distract myself so that I don't have to see the great indifference. Well, it's two in a row. And then there comes the principle of the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else or be anywhere else or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. I always say that the same way. I think I'd find some more creative way to do this. Each of these principles has a default description that I can use for everything if I really want to knock it out fast. And doing this in front of a camera, I tend to avoid those, and so I speak it more extemporaneously. But that one I always do the same. I'll try to mix it up in the future. Next is the Path of Wildness, which is a very important principle to me. It's what allows me to break the status quo and try on new modes of living and new lives, to push forward with uncertainty and fear, rallying my energies around a reasonable conclusion of the best way to go. I like the way that sounds. Next is and it's easy to find. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. The idea that there are surface level risks in life, the easy, low-hanging fruit of education, career, family, etc. I know I said easy, low. I know it's not easy for some of these, or all of them even, but relative to the other one, which is to finding ourselves, and that's hard. It's really hard to do both. So usually, as human beings, we settle for one category or the other. Either the settled home and family or the self-actualized life. Rarely both. Or rarely both without consequence. sin and damnation is the next principle. And there are 7 sins. Credulity, willingness to believe, overwillingness to believe, hope, wishful thinking, without action, without a motive force, faith, believing without evidence, just believing based on the wish to believe itself. Probably the nastiest sin of all, faith. Why? Because it like hamstrings us. It leaves us stranded with a comforting certitude, usually for life. It's like taking a knife and cutting your own hamstrings, and well, screw it. This is where I am. This is good. This is it. This is the place. There is no better valley than right here. Oh yeah, dogma, authority, and gossip. Those are my sins, and I live a damned life if I engage in those. When I engage in those, because I do. Even faith. Let's see. Complete oblivion. When we die, we won't go on. We won't see anybody that we left behind. We won't have a chance to fix any mistakes, and there won't be any justice because we'll be dead, utterly gone. Pardon me. The great life adventure, one or more strivings in life that really define who we are, that help to form our identity. The season of philosophy, a time to formulate and record what it is we want to say in words or painting or photography or oratory or storytelling or however we do it. Now comes the bullseye aim, striving and missing the mark. The uphill climb, a steady climb forward. Almost there. Nothing is enough. That used to be the last one. Suggesting that less is better. And then the new last one, the principle of fun. After all that hard work, why not have a good time? Let myself do something pleasurable. I don't know if it may be too late for me. I've been too damn serious all my years. But I'm going to try. Principle of fun. To not only work hard at life, but to enjoy the time as well. In that order, mostly. All right, let's do a forecast of the coming day. Today I have a few meetings. One, or do I just have one? I have to look at the calendar. One that's on my mind, the team meeting. And I already told you how I'm going to handle that. I'm going to do the thing that works. Even though I have difficulty doing it because it's awkward, but it works, so I'm going to do it. And then I'm planning to, I'm going to literally lay out for you some of the details. I'm going to communicate. I'll work on tidying that up, preparing for that meeting, communicating that, and then executing that. Once that's done, then I'll send that on to the project sponsor once I have approval of the team, to get his approval, hopefully by the end of the week. Maybe you should give him next week. Give him 1 week till next Wednesday to read and respond to that. Then I'll have my direction. Once then, by next week, I'll have the team before the end of the year. Tidily before the end of the year, I'll have the direction, an executable way forward. And I have laid out all the artifacts that we need to create, assigned them all to myself. It's another tricky one. Should I be assigning them to? I should be assigning them to other people, but real limits and real opportunity, right? Um, then for my other projects, for the other one, I'll I know what to do. I'm going to lay out I'm going to use the new tool and lay out sub projects. I'm going to handle it in like a deployment, but lay out the sub projects, and I'll do that today. Like I have to learn the new tool a little bit better today, and then today's going to be a raw road day, just normal stuff. Nothing exceptional or anything like that at all. Just good hard work. And with that, I'll stop. I'm over 25 minutes already. Wish you all the best. Make it a good day. Let's all make it a good day, and be safe, but not too safe. Take care. The dog's fast asleep. It's time to get up, Ollie. Take care.